Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I have not been around in like 10 days and it's because I had COVID and then I got an eye infection that made me look like Frankenstein. Well, or at least like someone punched me in the eye. It looked like I had a black eye. So I could not be visible to humans. But I'm back. And I'm back with my list of books that I added to Goodreads in March. It's not even the end of March. I was going to wait, but my lord, this list is long, and I'm not even going to give you all the books. I'll just say that I added all of the Louise Penny books to it, and a couple of American Girl series, the Caroline books, and Cecile and Marie Grace, and this other girl from Hawaii, I forget her name already, and I'm not looking it up right now. But, yeah, I'm reading those with the Dolls of Our Lives podcast. It's really cool. I love that podcast. They go through each American Girl book, and they talk about, like, the real, like, because they're historians, so they kind of go into the history. So it's really fun. It's more for adults than for kids. But, yeah, I love the podcast. And I finally decided to catch up on the episodes I've been missing because I can only get certain American Girl books on audio, so I finally just got the ones I wanted from the library, and I'm scanning them and converting them to Braille slowly. So yeah, I added all of those, but I'm not going to go through those. So I'm just going to go through the rest that are not series. So the first one actually is a series, but this is the first one in the series. I'm going to try it. I heard about it through Krista from Books and Jams' like video where she had a bunch of people recommend books for middle grade March. So it's called The Penderwicks, a summer tale of 4 sisters, 2 rabbits, and a very interesting boy by Jean Birdsall. I have not read this, but it sounds similar to All of a Kind Family or The Vanderbeekers. I love family stories. It's literally just their shenanigans, these 4 sisters. I read kind of like the first couple of pages, and it sort of reads like a classic, but it's a modern book, so I don't know, it's interesting. Anyway, I'll read it at some point. Next is Codename Edelweiss by Stephanie Lansam. I found this through a new booktuber, well, new to me, Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction. This was released on March 7th. So, in the summer of 1933, a man named Adolf Hitler is the new and powerful anti-Semitic chancellor of Germany. But in Los Angeles, no-nonsense Secretary Liesl Weiss has concerns much closer to home. The Great Depression is tightening its grip, and Liesl is the sole supporter of 2 children, an opinionated mother and a troubled brother. Leon Lewis is a Jewish lawyer who has watched Adolf Hitler's rise to power and the increase in anti-Semitism in America with growing alarm. He believes Nazi agents are working to seize control of Hollywood, the greatest propaganda machine the world has ever known. The trouble is, authorities scoff at his dire warnings. When Lisa loses her job at MGM, her only choice is to work with Leon Weiss and the mysterious Agent 13 to spy on her friends and neighbors in her German-American community. What Leon Weiss and his spies find is more chilling and more dangerous than any of them suspected. This sounds really good. I mean, World War II, but like Hollywood? I'm fascinated. This is also apparently Christian fiction. So I'm not sure how God-heavy this is, if you guys care or not. I personally don't care. But, you know, some people don't want to be preached at. So I'm letting you know. Next is Plain Song by Kent Harif. I think this is a series as well. This is the first one. I got this through, what's her name? I'm losing my mind. What Should I Read Next podcast? Anne Bogle. I was about to call her Amanda. We rarely have overlap, but this one sounded interesting. In the small town of Holt, Colorado, a high school teacher is confronted with raising his 2 boys alone after their mother retreats, first to the bedroom, then altogether. A teenage girl, her father long since disappeared, her mother unwilling to have her in the house, is pregnant, alone herself with nowhere to go. and out in the country, two brothers, elderly bachelors, work the family homestead, the only world they've ever known. Basically, it's like these 4 generations kind of coming together. Sounds interesting. Copy paste sort of cut the last sentence of the description, but yeah. Next is going to be a bunch from Krista from Books and Jams. First is River Sing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer. Her search begins with an ending. The master of the Providence plantation in Barbados gathers his slaves and announces the king has decreed an end to slavery. As of the following day, the Emancipation Act of 1834 will come into effect. The cries of joy fall silent when he announces that they are no longer his slaves. They are now his apprentices. No one can leave. They must work for him for another 6 years. Freedom is just another name for the life they have always lived. So Rachel runs. Away from Providence, she begins a desperate search to find her children, the 5 who survived birth and were sold. Are any of them still alive? Rachel has to know. The grueling, dangerous journey takes her from Barbados, then by river deep into the forests of British Guiana, and finally across the sea to Trinidad. She is driven on by the certainty that a mother cannot be truly free without knowing what has become of her children, even if the answer is more than she can bear. Yep, definitely my thing. Next is Paris Never Leaves by Ellen Feldman. Living through World War II, working in a Paris bookstore with her young daughter, Vivi, and fighting for her life, Charlotte is no victim. She is a survivor. But can she survive the next chapter of her life? Alternating between wartime Paris and 1950s New York publishing is an extraordinary story of resilience, love, and impossible choices, exploring how survival never comes without a cost. World War II, a bookstore, mine. I bought it immediately. Next is When We Meet Again by Kristen Harmel, also another Krista book. I loved the one Kristen Harmel book I read, and I have like 2 that I still need to read, but I still bought this one. I have a problem. Okay. Emily Emerson is used to being alone. Her dad ran out on the family when she was just a kid. Her mom died when she was 17, and her beloved grandmother has just passed away as well. But when she's laid off from her reporting job, she finds herself completely at sea until the day she receives a beautiful, haunting painting of a young woman standing at the edge of a sugarcane field under a violet sky. That woman is recognizable as her grandmother, and the painting arrived with no identification other than a handwritten note saying, "He always loved her." Emily is hungry for roots and family, so she begins to dig. And as she does, she uncovers a fascinating era in American history. Her trail leads her to the POW internment camps of Florida, where German prisoners worked for American farmers and sometimes fell in love with American women. But how does this all connect to the painting? The answer to that question will take Emily on a road that leads from the sweltering Everglades to Munich, Germany, and back to the Atlanta art scene before she's done. Along the way, she finds herself tempted to tear down her carefully tended walls at last. She's seeing another side of her father and a new angle on her painful family history, but she still has secrets, ones she's been keeping locked inside for years. Will this journey bring her the strength to confront them at last? Yep. I can't wait to read this. Next is Only the Beautiful by Susan Meisner. I love Susan Meisner. She is an auto-buy author for me. I heard about this one from Chantel Reads All Day. This is coming out on April 15th. I already pre-ordered it. I have a book buying problem. California, 1938. When she loses her parents in an accident, 16-year-old Roseanne is taken in by the owners of the vineyard where she has lived her whole life as the vine dresser's daughter. She moves into Celine and Truman Calvert's spacious house with a secret, however. Rosie sees colors when she hears sound. She promised her mother she'd never reveal her little understood ability to anyone, but the weight of her isolation and grief proved too much for her. Driven by her loneliness, she not only breaks the vow to her mother, but in a desperate moment lets down her guard and ends up pregnant. Banished by the Calverts, Roseanne believes she is bound for a home for unwed mothers, and having lost her family, she treasures her pregnancy as the chance for a future one. But she soon finds out she is not going to a home of any kind, but to a place far worse than anything she could have imagined. Austria, 1947. After witnessing firsthand Adolf Hitler's brutal pursuit of hereditary purity, especially with regard to different children, Helen Calvert, Truman's sister, is ready to return to America for good. But when she arrives at her brother's peaceful vineyard after decades working abroad, she's shocked to learn what really happened 9 years earlier to the vine dresser's daughter, a girl whom Helen had long ago befriended. In her determination to find Roseanne, Helen discovers that while the war had been won in Europe, there are still terrifying battles to be fought at home. I'm interested in this book. Sounds like it's synesthesia, I think it's called. Interesting condition, too. Next is A Night Divided by Jennifer A. Nielsen, another Krista book. A lot of these are Krista books. She read this for middle grade March. Jennifer A. Nielsen also wrote Iceberg, which I already ordered. Have not read yet, but anyway. With the rise of the Berlin Wall, 12-year-old Gerda finds her family suddenly divided. She, her mother, and her brother Fritz live on the eastern side, controlled by the Soviets. Her father and middle brother, who had gone west in search of work, cannot return home. Gerda knows it is dangerous to watch the wall, to think forbidden thoughts of freedom, yet she can't help herself. She sees the East German soldiers with their guns trained on their own citizens. She, her family, her neighbors, and friends are prisoners in their own city. But one day, while on her way to school, Gerda spots her father on a viewing platform on the western side, pantomiming a peculiar dance. Then when she receives a mysterious drawing, Gerda puts two and two together and concludes that her father wants Gerda and Fritz to tunnel beneath the wall out of East Germany. However, if they are caught, the consequences will be deadly. No one can be trusted. Will Gerda and her family find their way to freedom? This is a part of history I did not know much about, but I'm interested. Next is Letters from the Lighthouse by Emma Carroll, also a Krista book. February 1941. After months of bombing raids in London, 12-year-old Olive Bradshaw and her little brother Cliff are evacuated to the Devon coast. The only person with 2 spare beds is Mr. Ephraim, the local lighthouse keeper, but he's not used to company and he certainly doesn't want any evacuees. Desperate to be helpful, Olive becomes his post girl, carrying secret messages as she likes to think of the letters to the villagers. But Olive has a secret of her own. Her older sister Suki went missing in an air raid, and she's desperate to discover what happened to her. And then she finds a strange coded note which seems to link Suki to Devon and to something dark and impossibly dangerous. I'm interested. Very interested. It's a middle grade book. Then after that, I went on a sort of Jennifer Nielsen rabbit hole, and I found these books. First is Resistance. Well, the first book is called Resistance by Jennifer A. Nielsen. Kaya Lindner is a teenager living in Nazi-occupied Poland. Simply being Jewish places her in danger of being killed or sent to the camps. After her little sister is taken away, her younger brother disappears, and her parents all but give up hope, Kaya is determined to make a difference. Using forged papers and her fair features, Kaya becomes a courier and travels between the Jewish ghettos of Poland, smuggling food, papers, and even people. Soon Kaya joins a resistance cell that runs raids on the Nazis' supplies. But after a mission goes terribly wrong, Kaya's network shatters. She is alone and unsure of where to go, until Esther, a member of her cell, finds her and delivers a message that chills Kaya to her core and sends her on a journey toward an even larger uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto. Though the Jewish resistance never had much of a chance against the Nazis, they were determined to save as many lives as possible and to live or die with honor. Okay, this author sounds like she goes pretty deep in her middle grades. Next is Words on Fire by Jennifer A. Nielsen. Danger is never far from Audra's family farm in Lithuania. She always avoids the occupying Russian Cossack soldiers who insist that everyone must become Russian. They have banned Lithuanian books, religion, culture, and even the language. But Audra knows her parents are involved in something secret and perilous. When Cossacks arrive abruptly at their door, Audra's parents insist that she flee, taking with her an important package and instructions for where to deliver it. But escape means abandoning her parents to a terrible fate. As Audra embarks on a journey to deliver the mysterious package, she faces unimaginable risks, and soon she becomes caught up in a growing resistance movement. Can joining the underground network of book smugglers give Audra a chance to rescue her parents? Okay, I need some water. That's a lot of reading. The next one is My Stepmother's Secret by Emma Robinson. I discovered this author in a Facebook group, and I love her. She's kind of like Jodi Picoult, just less on the nose. Like, ethical dilemmas, stuff like that. I'm not sure when this one's coming out. It says sometime in April, I think, on Goodreads. But I can't find it on Audible. And the last Emma Robinson book, it said it was coming out at a certain time on Goodreads, and then it took forever to come out on audio. So I'm not giving a pub date for this. So I'll read the description. It's in that moment I realize I have nowhere to turn. If my precious daughters and I are going to have a roof over our heads, we have to return to my childhood home. The one I've not felt welcome in since my father died. The one where the woman who destroyed our family still lives. Today marks the end of my life as I know it. I have absolutely nowhere to go, no one to turn to. My husband's lies have ruined our family and wrecked our marriage, and now he's disappeared, leaving just a promise to make it all right. My daughters, Olivia and Alice, need me like never before. I will do whatever it takes to stay strong, to keep them safe and loved. So I turned to the one place I hoped never to return to. When my dad died, he left me his house, with one proviso. His second wife, my stepmother, was to be allowed to live there for as long as she wanted. She hasn't welcomed me there or shown a single sign of leaving since. But I have no choice. I need to ask her for help. Little do I know that everything I thought I knew about the woman who destroyed my life when I was a child is about to come crashing down. Living together now, the secrets that have kept us apart for all these years are finally revealing themselves. Will our fragile bond break completely, or could it be the only thing that saves me and my daughters? Okay, I don't know when this is coming out, but I hope it's soon on audio because I want it. Next is A Flaw in the Design by Nathan Oates. I actually heard about this through several podcasts. But I kept taking it off my list and then putting it back on, and I just recently decided to keep it. So, Gil is living a quiet life as a creative writing professor in a bucolic Vermont town where he receives some shocking news. His sister and her husband have been killed in a car accident, and their only son is coming to live with him and his family. Gil and his wife are apprehensive about taking in 17-year-old Matthew. Yes, he has just lost both his parents, but they haven't seen him in 7 years, and the last time the families were together, Matthew lured their young daughter into a terrifying, life-threatening situation. Since that incident, Gil has been estranged from his sister and her family, and her flashy, wealthy banker husband. Now Matthew is their charge, living under their roof. The boy seems charming, smart, and urbane, if strangely unaffected by his parents' deaths. Gil hopes they can put the past behind them, though he's surprised when Matthew signs up for his creative writing class. Then Matthew begins turning in chilling stories about the imagined deaths of Gil's family and his own parents. Bewildered and panicked, Gil ultimately decides he must take matters into his own hands before life imitates art. This sounds terrifying and fascinating at the same time. Hence why I kept going back and forth. We'll see. I'm on hold for the library because it might not be a keeper. Next is My Name is Memory by Anne Bradshares. The Reading Through Life podcast is reading it for their backlist book club, and it sounded interesting. Well, they already read it. The podcast episode about it is already out, but I need to read it before I listen to the spoilers. Daniel has spent centuries falling in love with the same girl. Life after life, crossing continents and dynasties, he and Sophia, despite her changing name and form, have been drawn together, and he remembers it all. Daniel has the memory, the ability to recall past lives and recognize souls of those he's previously known. It is a gift and a curse. For all the times that he and Sophia have been drawn together throughout history, they have also been torn apart. A love always too short. Interwoven through Sophia and Daniel's unfolding present-day relationship are glimpses of their expansive history together. From 552 Asia Minor to 1918 England and 1972 Virginia, the two souls share a long and sometimes torturous path of seeking each other time and time again. But just when young Sophia, now Lucy, in the present, finally begins to awaken to the secret of their shared past, to understand the true reason for the strength of their attraction, the mysterious force that has always torn them apart reappears. Ultimately, they must come to understand what stands in the way of their love if they are ever to spend a lifetime together. Yikes. Sounds kind of like Life After Life, which I have not read, but it sounds similar. So I'm interested. Next is Rootless by Crystal Zara Apaya. I got this one from Tina from the Book Talk, etc. podcast. On a spring afternoon in London, Sam hops the stairs of his flat 2 at a time. There's £1,300 missing from his and his wife Effie's shared bank account, and his calls are gone straight to voicemail. When he finally reaches someone, he learns Effie is nearly 5,000 miles away as their toddler looks around and asks, "Where's Mummy?" When Effie and Sam met as teens, headed for university, it seemed everyone knew they were meant to be. Effie, newly arrived in the UK from Ghana and sinking under the weight of her parents' expectations, found comfort in the focused and idealistic Sam. He was stable, working toward a law career, and had an unwavering vision for their future. A vision Effie, now a decade later, finds slightly insufferable. From the outside, they're the picture-perfect couple everyone imagined, but there are cracks in the frame. When Effie and Sam are faced with an unplanned pregnancy, they find themselves on opposite sides. Fatherhood is everything he has dreamed of, but Effie feels stuck in a nightmare. And when a new revelation emerges, they are forced to confront just how radically different they want their lives to be. Already swallowed by the demands of motherhood and feeling the dreams she had slipping away, once again, Effie disappears. Yikes. That sounds terrifying. Like, did you, ditch your kid? I don't know. Next is a book this is a wild card book for me. It's supposedly an Anne of Green Gables retelling, a witchy Anne of Green Gables retelling. I heard about this through the Currently Reading podcast, and then Katie just brought it to the podcast again. So, it's The Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. And Amanda actually also brought it to one of her most recent videos too. And she said it was good, so I'm going to trust them. So, okay. Okay. Grace has never been good at anything except magic. Not that anyone believes her. While other children are adopted from the orphanage, nobody wants Grace. So she decides to make a home for herself by running away and offering herself as an apprentice to the witch in the nearby woods. After all, who better to teach Grace to use her magic? Surely the witch cannot be that bad. But the witch is that bad. She steals souls for spells and gobbles up hearts. So Grace offers a deal. If she can learn all 1,500 100 and a half spells in the witch's grimoire, the witch will make Grace her apprentice. But if Grace fails, the witch can take her magic. The witch agrees, and soon an unexpected bond develops between them. But the spells are much harder than Grace expected, and when a monster from the witch's past threatens the home Grace has built, she may have to sacrifice more than her magic to save it. Inspired by Anne of Green Gables, this is a magical story of found family, loss, and the power of a girl's imagination. I don't really get how this is found family. I mean, how this is Anne of Green Gables, but apparently it is, and it's been said by more than one person. So I'm on hold for this, because I may not like it. We'll see. Next is The Secret of Floralia by Patty Callahan Henry. This is released on May 2nd. Too bad, I can't wait. She wrote Once Upon a Wardrobe, and I love that book, but this is completely different. I cannot remember who recommended this. I think it was Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day? Or was it? I can't remember. I'll put it in the description because I know I commented on the video when I saw it. I don't know. Anyway, when a woman discovers a rare book that has connections to her past, long-held secrets about her missing sister and her childhood spent in the English countryside during World War II are revealed. In the war-torn London of 1939, 14-year-old Hazel and 5-year-old Flora are evacuated to a rural village to escape the horrors of the Second World War. Living with the kind Bridie Aberdeen and her teenage son, Harry, in a charming stone cottage along the River Thames, Hazel fills their days with walks and games to distract her young sister, including one that she creates for her sister and her sister alone. A fairy tale about a magical land, a secret place they can escape to that is all their own. I'm going to stop there because the rest of the description was way too spoilery. So, yeah. Next is this, time travel series, that I heard about through Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails. I'm going to read the description of the first one. It's called When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Myers. Libby has been given a powerful gift: to live one life in 1774 colonial Williamsburg and the other in 1914, Gilded Age New York City. When she falls asleep in one life, she wakes up in the other without any time passing. On her 21st birthday, Libby must choose one path and forfeit the other. But how can she possibly decide when she has so much to lose? And then In This Moment is coming out on May 2nd, which is the second book in the series. So I'm going to try to read the first book. I'm not sure if I'll like this because I'm a little nervous that I might not like her choice. Because you kind of lose everything in one life. I don't know how it'll turn out. But Katie said it's good, so I'm going to trust her. I can't find it in the library, though, so I may have to buy it. Which will suck if I don't like it. Oh, well. We'll see. Next is A Spoonful of Time by Flora On. I found this one through Bookish Realm. This is going to be released April 11th. It's a middle grade. Maya's grandmother, Hominy, may be losing her memory, but she hasn't lost her magic touch in the kitchen. Whether she serves salty miyukuk or sweet songpyeon, I am so sorry if I butchered that, her stories about Korea come to life for Maya. Then one day something extraordinary happens. One delicious bite transports Maya and Hominy into one of Hominy's memories. Suddenly they're in Seoul, and Hominy is young. This is just the first of many secrets Maya will uncover that she and her grandmother can travel through time. As Maya eats her way through the past, her questions multiply until a shocking discovery transforms everything she thought she knew about family, friendship, loss, and time itself. I am fascinated by this. Time travel through food? What is this madness? Next is Just 18 Summers by Renee Goodreads. I got this one through Cat Stories. After the tragic death of Butch Browning's wife, Jenny, 4 families begin to realize how precious and fleeting their time together is. Each is at a different stage in life. Butch is facing single parenthood. The O'Reillys are expecting their first child. The Andersons are approaching an empty nest. And the Buckleys are so focused on providing their children with everything that they've forgotten what they truly need. With just 18 summers before their children are grown, how do they make the most of time when life so often gets in the way? As summer flies by, each of these parents must learn about guilt and grace, and when to hold on to their kids and when to let go. Okay, these last few are recommended. I got these through Sarah from Sarah's Bookshelves Live podcast. These have been talked about like a lot, but for some reason she finally convinced me to try them. First is Ask Some Questions for You by Rebecca Mackay. A successful film professor and podcaster, Bodie Kane is content to forget her past, the family tragedy that marked her adolescence, her 4 largely miserable years at a New Hampshire boarding school, and the murder of her former roommate, Talia Keith, in the spring of their senior year. The circumstances surrounding Talia's death and the conviction of the school's athletic trainer, Omar Evans, are hotly debated online. Bodie needs to let sleeping dogs lie. But when the Granby school invites her back to teach a course, Bodie is inexorably drawn to the case and its increasing apparent... I have no idea what this is supposed to say. Laws? In their rush to convict Omar, did the school and the police overlook other suspects? Is the real killer still out there? As she falls down the very rabbit hole she was so determined to avoid, Bodie begins to wonder if she wasn't as much of an outsider at Granby as she thought. If perhaps back in 1995 she knew something that might have held the key to solving the case. Yep. Mystery. Next is All That Is Mine I Carry With Me by William Landay. One afternoon in November 1975, 10-year-old Miranda Larkin comes home from school to find her house eerily quiet. Her mother is missing. Nothing else is out of place. There is no sign of struggle. Her mom's pocketbook remains in the front hall in its usual spot. So begins a mystery that will span a lifetime. What happened to Jane Larkin? Investigators suspect Jane's husband, a criminal defense attorney. Dan Larkin would surely be an expert in outfoxing the police, but no evidence is found linking him to a crime, and the case fades from the public's memory, a simmering, unresolved riddle. Jane's 3 children, Alex, Jeff, and Miranda, are left to be raised by the man who may have murdered their mother. 2 decades later, the remains of Jane Larkin are found. The investigation is awakened. The children, now grown, are forced to choose sides, with their father or against him, guilty or innocent. And what happens if they are wrong? That is insane. And yes, this is my last book. Thank goodness. My voice is going. Hello, Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. Apparently this is kind of Little Women adjacent, which is what convinced me. William Waters grew up in a house silenced by tragedy, where his parents could hardly bear to look at him, much less love him. So it's a relief when his skill on the basketball court earns him a scholarship to college far away from his childhood home. He soon meets Julia Padovano, a spirited and ambitious young woman who surprises William with her appreciation of his quiet steadiness. With Julia comes her family. She's inseparable from her 3 younger sisters. Sylvia the dreamer is the happiest with her nose in the book and imagines a future different from the expected path of wife and mother. Cecilia, the family's artist, and Emmeline, who patiently takes care of all of them. Happily, the Padovanos fold Julia's new boyfriend into their loving, chaotic household. But then darkness from William's past surfaces, jeopardizing not only Julia's carefully orchestrated plans for their future, but the sisters' unshakable loyalty to one another. The result is a catastrophic family rift that changes their lives for generations. Will the loyalty that once rooted them be strong enough to draw them back together when it matters most? Well, so those are all the books I added to Goodreads in March. If I have any more in the next 2 days, they will be in April. But for now, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video if I ever get my voice back. Bye!
Speech on. Stop recording video.